メジャー翻訳速報。メジャーリーグの MVP 部門で今年も大谷翔平選手に大きな注目が集まっています。ナショナルリーグでは大谷選手が最有力候補として挙げられており、複数のメディアもその可能性を高く評価しています。現地放送局が伝える大谷選手の MVP 争いに関する情報を日本語翻訳してお届けいたします。この動画が面白いと思っていただけましたら、チャンネル登録と高評価よろしくお願いいたします。
But first, while you were watching something else, possibly last night, BBWAA Awards Week kicks off next week, but we really started the proceedings last night with our live program. MLB Tonight had the finalists for all the awards, and we'll start with Rookies of the Year.
We got that full screen, Bill?
Yep, been on the screen for a few seconds already, Harold. In the American League, Luis Gil is the favorite. Be hard to imagine what the Yankees' rotation would have been like for about a 2.5-month stretch without Gil. He was magnificent in his rookie year. Colton Cowser, really good inaugural season in Baltimore. Austin Wells also makes the finalist chart in the National League. The heavy favorite is Paul Skeens, even though Jackson Merrill in any other year would probably walk away with this. And Jackson Churio at the age of 20 was also very special. Let's talk about Manager of the Year, Alan. I'm curious how you would rank this. Give me your initial take on this grouping.
I think for me, what Pat Murphy did with the Brewers, I think they win. Of course, Mendoza and the Mets going into this offseason or the start of next year, almost everybody did not see them going as deep as they did, obviously, in the LCS. Certainly Schilt was great. So I got 1, 2, 3 in that order. I can't get past Matt Quatraro. I mean, Kansas City, again, we're going to do like preseason rankings, and I know it's so early for next year.
Yeah.
But we knew that Kansas City was going to be improved, no question about it. This is a great list, by the way.
It is.
To go 1, 2, 3 is not easy. What A.J. Hinch and Stephen Vogt, this is a great list.
American League is
It is not going to be unanimous, by the way.
Total toss-up. Pat Murphy is in line to be the Brewers' first ever Manager of the Year award.
What job has he had in baseball besides talking on television?
Lou, that's firm. I mean, Pat Murph's been in the game forever. Cy Young finalists: Tarek Skubal, heavy chalk in the American League. Seth Lugo and Emmanuel Clase will finish second and third and second. Put him in the Quinella box. How about the National League? This is really interesting. Yes. Not only because Paul Skeens is a finalist and nobody saw that coming. But because it's closer than you might think between Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler. Wheeler had 32 starts last year, 26 were quality starts, but Chris Sale won the Triple Crown of pitching. And I just don't think it goes any place outside of that. Sale's got to be the heavy favorite here. It might be closer than we think, but the last time two pitchers won the Cy Young with Triple Crowns, you got to go back to 2011. Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander. Do you see it any other way? Is Sale your favorite here too?
Yes, I think that I think Skeens wins the. I think he wins the Rookie of the Year. But for me, as great a story and unbelievable domination, it's just not enough. I mean, I'm an innings guy, and I know with Sale and Wheeler, that to me is going to be 1, 2. I know Imanaga had a heck of a year as well. I mean, but boy, it is just screaming out right there, Matty, of what the baseball world thinks of what Paul Skeens is going to be, and I believe that kid stays healthy. It's multiple Cy Youngs for him.
Gotcha. Let's lastly hit you with the Cy Young Award. Here are the facts.
Who cares about the facts?
Well, the voters care about the facts, Harold, and Aaron Judge had a monster year. Again, this is a regular season award. Aaron Judge will win it in the American League. I don't think there's much question about that, and I think you can say the same for Shohei Ohtani. It's too bad because Lindor built a really strong candidacy after the All-Star break, but the two guys at the top, I think, walk away with it easy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Unanimous, do you think, in either case?
I think if there is a unanimous, it would be on the AL side. But I don't want to overlook what Bobby Witt Jr. did in helping them obviously get to the playoffs. He is electric. He's dynamic. Every facet of the game. This is a perennial future superstar. I think he wins an MVP at some point.
I think they're probably more compelling races than MVP. National League Cy Young is really close.
Yeah.
National League Rookie of the Year is really close. And recent history.
I love history.
I know you do, Harold. The recent history behind that award is that it's rare when two rookies, two pitchers rather, win Rookie of the Year in the same season. 1981 was the last time two starters did it. Fernando Valenzuela, Dave Righetti. So it's, we're in.
And
Heel,
I think we're pretty good with. Are you good with skiing?
I'm good. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Good with
Well, I
skiing.
mean, Jackson Merrill. I mean, as an everyday guy.
And again, like you sound like you're arguing against the guy who's going to finish in second place. And again, he had a magical year, and he's going to be a stud for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But what Paul Skeens did.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
He had all the sexy headlines around him all the time.
Is it fair to say, and I haven't seen the Rookie of the Year numbers for Bryce Harper, but like to me, it had that excitement. Like it was, Skeens. It was one of those things. Oh, he's pitching tonight.
Yeah.
Like it was the back to the Fernando days. Really.
Yeah, it really was. And you start the All-Star game, like it's just all in line.
Yeah.
I don't care if he didn't get here till May 11th. We're not talking about August 11th.
Yeah, fair.
Right, he missed 6 weeks to start the season.
They managed him really well. I mean, he pitched almost every one of his starts were on 6 days. So there was no overdoing him.
I also thought it was interesting because Jackson, I don't think anybody would cop to this, but because Jackson Merrill made such a push at the end of the season, in another circumstance, they may have shut Skeens down earlier. Pirates were out of it, right? So we know you like to bubble wrap your generational talent, right? So if there wasn't any pressure on him to win National League Rookie of the Year by anybody else, would they have shut him down on August 30th or September 15th or something like that? I don't know.
Or just not have him, push to the extra inning or the extra 10, 15 pitches as he dominated down the stretch.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. Let's continue the conversation this morning to start the program by going to X. And John Heyman putting this very thought-provoking message out there. Dodgers favored for Sasaki, the next great thing coming from Japan, but hearing early word Padres could have a shot where there is a Darvish connection. The two are friendly, familiar, and Sasaki grew up idolizing you. Very early odds, not to be used for betting purposes. John is quick to put the disclaimer on that, which we love. Dodgers, he's giving them an 83% chance. The Padres come in at a 10% chance. Everybody else collectively at 7%. Steve Phillips said on our program yesterday that this feels like a Dodger-ish play to go get Sasaki. Do you agree? Is he that strong a favorite to go to L.A.?
I think it comes down to this, and I think historically in the past, there were Japanese players that came over to Major League Baseball that didn't want to be potentially second fiddle to the other Japanese player. Right. So we saw that dispersed around baseball. I think it's different now. I mean, this is a special arm. He's only 23 years old. Saw with Ohtani, he came over as a young player with the Angels. And it makes sense. It screams out. I look at this. I think that you talk about a full court press of impressing a young, impressionable Japanese player and having both Ohtani and Yamamoto. And Ohtani, who knows how they're going to use him, but obviously we saw in the postseason he started throwing side days.
Right.
And I always watch these bullpens, how aggressively they're throwing. He's going to be pitching at some point. I don't know how the Dodgers use him, whether he's starter or opener or closer. But, yeah, this is pretty much how it looks like it's going to play out, which means Walker Buehler, who was exceptional in the postseason and obviously finished up their World Championship season with a punch-out and everybody piling on him. He likely won't be part of the mix. I know we don't have Bobby Miller in there. I know he went kind of sideways, but I love his stuff.
I mean, there's so many names in a potential 2025 Dodgers rotation that we don't know about, including May and Gonsolin, who we did have in there, who coming back off injuries. Pretty interesting stuff. We're going to talk a little bit more about Juan Soto and where he might land and if there are any new shakes and leads on that later on in the program. But first, we are so pleased to welcome back a very important member of our show's cast, back from sabbatical and hopefully with us for better attendance than what he's exhibited the last few years.
On a cell phone, he's awful.
No, he's not. He's right here, and he's great. Keith Costas rejoined the program. Good to have you back, bud.
Hey, Keith.
Good to be back, boys. It's an interesting way to describe a full season's worth of work as a sabbatical, but it's good to be here nonetheless, Matty.
Got it. Yeah, it's a sabbatical as far as our purposes are concerned. Since we haven't talked to you about anything relating to the World Series or the early stages of the free agent market, did you have any takeaway from the Dodgers thrashing of the Yankees, or do you have any thoughts on, say, Juan Soto that we haven't already parroted about in the first week and a half of the show?
Well, Al and I were just discussing this before the show started as far as Soto is concerned, and I don't think I have any original thoughts. Backpage is filled already on a seemingly daily basis, but I tend to agree with what people seem to be trending towards with Soto staying in New York but changing teams.
Oh, you think the Mets are the front runner?
I do. I don't think I'm exactly going out on a limb there, but I do feel like that's where he ultimately lands.
There was, and not to cannibalize what we may have time to get to later, but there was a John Heyman report yesterday that one of the teams getting in the way of the New Yorks might be the Toronto Blue Jays. Are the Toronto Blue Jays the greatest straw man in sports right now, or are they real players in
I was going to say, I feel like we've seen this act before, and just based on recent history last offseason with Ohtani, I would tend to agree with you that perhaps they're just a straw man in these discussions. But we know they've got money to spend and certainly need to improve that offense. So it makes sense on the surface, but I think he stays south of the border.
Yeah. Hey, what do you have for us today? I know you've cooked up some fun stuff for the program this morning.
Yeah, we've got another free agent face-off coming up, a new segment, a little record store towards the end of the show. And going back to what you guys were talking about with Rookie of the Year, I'm totally with you on Skeens. Let's not overthink this. You go back to Harper. Remember Wade Miley got some votes that year. How about Ohtani and Miguel Andujar? I get it. Jackson Merrill, great season. Probably better than either of those two examples. But when someone comes up, even in less than a full season, and is exactly what you thought they were as the top prospect in the game, let's give them the hardware.
Yeah, it's good.
How much Italian you speaking, Mike?
No, it's JP, and he's in Taiwan. Harold, JP, good morning. Wow, it's
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, says Harold as well. Good morning, or good evening, I should say. But before you get ready to run the streets, because I know it's just after 10 p.m. Taiwan time, and you're about to just go nuts, hit the clubs and everything, tell us about your travels. Tell us about what you're doing in Taiwan.
Matt and Al, thank you very much. Shawu Hao, as they say. Good evening here in Taipei City, Taiwan. Getting ready for the Premier 12, which gets underway tomorrow. So Wednesday here in Taipei City, we'll be calling the Chinese Taipei versus Korea matchup. And along those lines, I was able to attend BP and some festivities today at the Taipei Dome. Check this out and slow this down. This is South Korean captain Sung Moon Song hitting with the bat upside down. He had the bat from the barrel, and he was hitting it with the handle. Here was the press conference, hundreds of reporters. This is one of the biggest sporting events that we ever see, certainly in the baseball world. That's a lot of media here at the introductory press conference. So a lot of great events happening, and I say this, a lot of great prospects in this tournament. How about Matt Shaw with Team USA, a Chicago Cubs prospect? He's off to a tremendous start. The U.S. has actually lost 2 of their 3 games, but Shaw right now, 8 for 11 with a 727 batting average. So he's been great. I'm excited to watch here in Taipei City, Travis Bazzana, who is the #1 overall pick in the draft this past year, the Cleveland Guardians. He's a star of Team Australia. So you've got Matt Shaw of the U.S., Travis Bazzana of Australia, and Do-Young Kim of Team Korea, just 21 years of age, but he is a known commodity. Take a listen to this call of a cycle that he hit earlier this year for the Kia Tigers of KBO.
바깥쪽 완전히 빠져 앉았고요. 잡아당긴 타구입니다. 왼쪽입니다. 탐정 넘어갑니다.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, Young Kim, I love the call. I love the player. How about this? An OPS above 1,000 this year for the Korean League champions, the Kia Tigers. 38 homers, 40 stolen bases as a 21-year-old. 21 is the same age that Yamamoto was when he won a gold medal for Japan 5 years ago, the same age that a young Shohei Ohtani was when he helped Japan to the medal round back in 2015 in the first edition of the Premier 12. And Matt, I got to say this, speaking of prospects, I think I found some good prospects of a gift that I might want to bring home to you, my friend, from Taipei City. How about this?
Here I am at the shop, and I'm wondering, Matty V, certainly the cheer squad for Team Chinese Taipei also very popular. Jesse wears number 66. Let me know if I've got to clear some space in my luggage to bring you home. A little bit of merch here from Team Chinese Taipei.
So, Matt, listen, here's the deal. I know well that whenever we have college coaches on the show, on the way out, it's like, hey, thanks for joining us. By the way, here's the address for you to send our merch. So I know Matt's entire closet is full of college coaches' gear that they've sent you. And I just thought that, Jesse, where's number 66? In fairness, every single member of the cheerleading squad, Matt, has her own number, her own jersey. It's like there's the players section of the merchandise shop, and then the cheerleader section as well. It was something to see.
That would be the second most popular number 66 jersey I could think of, second only to the great Yasiel Puig. I mean, that's amazing. Hey, JP, let me ask you this: what is the smallest nation team that is represented in the 12? What's the smallest country there?
The premier. That's a great question. So I would say, based on population, most likely Puerto Rico. Of course, a Commonwealth within. Obviously, a Commonwealth of the U.S., I would say Puerto Rico probably by population the smallest. Of course, Chinese Taipei represents Taiwan, also an island. So I would say that those are probably the two smallest based on population representing in the tournament.
How about the most obscure or least popular or known?
The least known. Well, I would say this, the new debutantes. Panama has arrived on the scene of the Premier 12, and they actually are now 2-1. So Panama, their first ever appearance to the Premier 12, because the whole idea of this tournament, Al and Matt, is that you take the 12 highest rated teams in the WBSC ranking. So by definition, it's the Big 12. We've had teams that Italy has actually fallen out of it, as has Canada, while Panama has now risen into the top 12.
Interesting. We don't want to take you off of the 12 and this tournament and this international trip of yours, but we did tease this getting into the break. This idea that you're floating that maybe Zack Gallen could be an interesting name on this year's trade market. Is that smoke, or is there anything to that?
I would say, Matt, it's unlikely at the moment, but it tells you that right now the D-backs, who missed the playoffs this year by the narrowest of margins, are getting some phone calls on their starting pitchers. That much we know. And Gallen, of course, has not been extended long-term, so as he's getting closer to free agency, it's natural that GMs will call. And my understanding is last week, that's exactly what happened. Zack Gallen was generating some trade interest at the GM meetings, but I was told in the last 24 hours not to expect a trade here, that he is likely to be back with the Diamondbacks in 2025. And when you consider if they get a healthier year from Eduardo Rodriguez and a more normal year for Jordan Montgomery, you add Brandon Pfaadt, maybe a healthy year from Merrill Kelly as well. Ryan Nelson has been, I think, an underrated starter, and actually tomorrow's starter for Chinese Taipei, Yu-Min Lin, likely to be part of their rotation at some point in time in 2025. The Diamondbacks have a profundity of pitching, which I think is why teams are calling on Zack Gallen and others.
Got it. What is more likely then? A trade that the Diamondbacks involve Zack Gallen in, or some kind of a deal that the Twins involve Carlos Correa in? Is that something we should be watching this winter?
So I think that's more likely than a Zack Gallen trade for a couple of reasons. And credit Joel Sherman, he wrote about this recently in the New York Post, this general idea. We know the Twins are up for sale. We know that as they go through the transition in ownership, Correa's got still some big-time money coming. 4 more years on that deal before the club options even arrive. So when you consider how much money he is due, the fact that they are up for sale, here are his numbers from this past year. Now, the big number is 905. It's a great OPS. The concerning number is towards the top of the screen, which is 86 games played. I think that piece of this would make it difficult to move the contract unless, as Joel has talked about, maybe you find a way to pair up maybe some of the contracts the Yankees would like to move. So I think it's a very interesting possibility. Certainly, we have to wait and see how a lot of the other free agent movement goes. I think Juan Soto is the big domino. But I like this idea that Joel mentioned about a Correa trade, and certainly the Yankees could be a good fit, could be an interesting pairing. But I do think you look at the big picture here and say, if they don't get Soto and they have to pivot, I love that idea of Correa.
JP, you went to Harvard. What was your degree in?
My degree, Al, was in environmental science and public policy.
And history. So we're going to throw a couple little photos for you, and figuring that Harvard degree and your intelligence, you're an unbelievable human being. We're going to see if you can identify some of them, and I think a couple of them are internationally known. So let's go. You're going to be tested now.
You weren't ready for this, were you, JP?
What is that building?
That is Taipei 101. I looked at it today.
Dang it.
Fake news.
It's not fake news, Harold. That is really it.
I thought you were a big Mission Impossible fan. Which street area is this?
Is that Don Park?
Close. Dihua Street.
Okay.
Where'd you go to high school
I'm
at?
only 1 for 2 now.
It's the #1 shopping area, so maybe you should take a little look over there. And this one here, very famous. It's been around for only 4,000 years.
Interesting.
I have to admit, Al, I do not know the answer to that question.
All right, what does it look like? It's a profile.
It looks like a goddess. Isn't it a goddess potentially? I don't know. What do you think?
Close. It is called Queen's Head.
Or maybe a queen?
Queen's Head.
Yes, Queen's Head. It's a Queen's Head.
I was hoping you were going to tell me you were a history major.
I got 1 out of 3. I felt good about Taipei 101 because I saw it. But yeah, the second 2, I've got to do a better job. There are some amazing museums and temples to visit here. I intend to do that.
JP, tomorrow on the program, will we get an actual report from gameplay? Will the tournament has begun at that point, I would imagine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so basically I will probably be just emerging from the Taipei Dome after what is expected to be a sellout crowd, Chinese Taipei versus Korea. And this is, and you'll hear on tomorrow's show, the Taipei Dome, why I'm calling it, Al, the Sagrada Familia of baseball stadium.
Excellent.
I'll tell you why tomorrow.
JP, thanks for the live report. Enjoy, and we can't wait to talk to you tomorrow about your experiences out there. Yeah, sayonara.
メジャー翻訳速報。大谷翔平選手を擁するドジャースは次なる日本人選手の獲得に向けて動き出しているようですね。佐々木朗希投手の獲得についてドジャースが 83% と圧倒的な優勢との見方が出ています。ダルビッシュ有選手との親交があるパドレスも候補に上がっているものの現時点では可能性は 10% とのことです。今後の展開にも注目が集まりそうですね。皆様のご意見やご感想などありましたらぜひコメント欄でお聞かせください。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。ご視聴ありがとうございました。